Hello, Miss Steele here. So this week we are talking about emphasis. Emphasis is one of our principles of design. Different art skills and tools we use all the time, but focusing on them in return makes us better artists. Whenever we create artwork that has emphasis, there's a focus. There's one area that you're focusing on that has emphasis, and then the rest of your artwork can have interesting stuff going on, but we want to have just one focus on our artwork. And that is what we're going to do today. For this project, you want a piece of paper. I have a pretty large piece of paper. Your paper does not have to be as big as mine, but you want a white piece of paper. You want a pencil and an eraser, definitely our art tool basics. You want a ruler, or if you don't have a ruler, you could grab anything that has a straight edge, like a book. Even your Chromebook could be used for a straight edge. Or you can just try to draw your lines as straight as possible. You want some markers, specifically a black marker, so I have a Sharpie for that. And then we're going to be adding patterns into this, so I have this pattern example sheet that I'm going to be looking at if I need some pattern inspirations. So I'm going to move all of this out of the way, and our first step is going to be using our ruler, and we're going to make some straight lines at an angle on our paper. We're going to add 3 to 5 of these. So I'm just adding in, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I added 5 lines going up and down my paper, and these are going to end up being areas where I'm going to add pattern into. What I want to do now is I want to draw one line going from the middle of my paper on this end to the middle of my paper on this end. I don't want it to be just a straight line. I want it to have some waves or swirls to it. So I'm going to go in and add in that line. So you can see I added this line going from one side of my paper to the other. I'm just going over it again so you can see it, but you do not have to go over it twice. Now what we want to do is we want to pick one color and we're going to trace over that line using a marker. So I'm going to start with purple. And I'm going to trace over my line in purple. And I'm going to go over this purple just one more time, just to make it a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to go back and erase any of the pencil lines that might be hanging around the outside. So I'm going over my purple line. You do not have to use purple for your first color. You can use any color. I just started with purple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my eraser and I'm going to erase some of these pencil lines that are hanging outside of here like that. So I'm going to get this erased, fill in any gaps if I have any gaps in my purple line, and then we'll move on to our next step. So I'm going to get this, these pencil lines, not our straight lines, but our lines that we traced over. I'm going to get any lines that I have hanging out erased, and then we'll move on to our next step. So now we have our first line. What we want to do is we want to choose our next color and we're going to trace around the purple line. So this line is going to be our point of emphasis. So I'm trying to go right next to my purple line and fill it in with green. And I'm going to do this on the top and the bottom of my line, like this. And I'm going to follow this same step using a few different colors. So we're going to trace around this line 3 or 4 times. Again, you can use the same colors as me if you want, but you definitely don't have to. You can choose different colors. Right now, this green and this purple together look like the Incredible Hulk a little bit. So I'm going to do this with my green, and then we'll choose our next color to trace around again. So I traced it with my green. I think I'm going to use pink next. So I'm going to follow along just like I did before, and I'm going to trace over this one line using pink this time. So I'm going on both sides, on the top and on the bottom, trying to not color in the green, but right next to it, which is a little bit difficult. So I am going to trace around again using this pink, going slow, taking my time. And then I think after pink, I might use blue, and then I think I'm going to finish with yellow. So I'm going to work on getting my line traced, and then we will move on to our next step. All right, so I have my line that I have outlined and traced around. I did purple, then green, then pink, then orange, and then I finished with yellow. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to look at all of these spaces. So anywhere I hit a line, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, but I am going to use my black marker to add patterns into these different areas. I like to draw out my patterns first in pencil just so I can see what they'll look like. And then I am going to add patterns around in these different sections. So I want to add a different pattern for each of these. That could be lines, shapes. Normally I would say you could repeat colors for a pattern, but because we're just keeping all of our patterns black and white, you want to focus on just black and white for your patterns, staying inside these different sections that we created. And if you hit your line that you have outlined, you want to go around it like that. So I am going to start adding some patterns into these different areas using pencil first and then going over them with marker. And then once I have about half done, we'll check it and see how it's looking. And then I might end up erasing these lines in the background, but we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to work on adding in these patterns, and then we'll move on to our next step. All right, so I ended up erasing those lines in between each of my patterns. And if I had any lines hanging out, like on my marker drawing where I outlined my line. And you can see kind of what I got going on the bottom of my paper. So I added a different pattern into each of those sections. So all of this exciting stuff is happening. So there's a lot to look at, but our point of emphasis is still this line because it's so bright and everything else is just black and white. So I'm going to work on getting patterns added to my top areas, and then we will be finished with this. All right, so I have those different patterns in all of those areas. I'm finishing up by erasing any pencil lines that might be showing, just so this can look really clean and really finished. And I think those pencil lines keep it from looking as finished. So it's super easy to just erase it really quick. And there we go. There is our line using emphasis. I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different patterns. You can repeat some patterns if you want to, but you don't want to put them right next to each other. And I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, your evening, your afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Bye.